The window works. Hey y'all, welcome back to Doug's Cars. What an incredible day it is for me today. Check out this beautiful Beluga Black 1994 Range Rover Classic County LWB. This was my Range Rover Classic. This is one of the Range Rover Classics that we got out of a field back in 2019 behind a storage unit in Chester, Virginia. And it has gone on to a new owner. That's when I got my LR3 that's right over there. And this guy has spent the last year in his garage painstakingly, labor of lovingly restoring this vehicle. He got a donor vehicle for a new drivetrain, but the chassis and all, these tires and the old man Emu 2.5-inch lift, those were from me. But I mean, it's all been repainted beautifully in Beluga Black. He had the front seats reupholstered in leather. He redid the wood trim on all of these panels and was able to salvage some good wood from other vehicles. This is exactly the way I wanted this vehicle to look all those years ago when I got it. This is the original back seat leather, by the way. I could tell immediately from just some of the wear over there. I'm over the moon excited about this because I'm gonna get to drive this in a minute. And last time I drove this thing, it was blowing exhaust. I don't know, it was leaking from a few places, and it now purrs like a V8 kitten with this 4.2 liter engine. I'm going to talk about this truck a bit more, and I'm going to talk about what he's done to it and how you can check out what he did to it on his YouTube channel in a moment. But first, let's pop the hood on this because the engine bay is cleaner than when it was sold new at the Land Rover dealership. Wow. I mean, everything is just, I replaced that coil, that Bosch coil, that was me. Everything is just beautiful. Look at how clean and shiny the 4.2 is. I mean, this was never this nice. I know he's not had the air conditioning system charged yet, but he is updating it to 134A, and it will work again soon, which is fantastic. That's my coolant bottle. I remember replacing that, but he even managed to source the original decals. It did have them on here, but of course, they were not in great shape, and it certainly was not this pretty, and he very painstakingly put new felt here on the hood. The old felt on these actually had a sticker warning asbestos because that's what it was made out of. I am just overwhelmed at how glorious this thing looks. I mean, I did some hardcore off-roading in this when it was just something that had come out of a field, and I blew a power steering line right down there, and those videos are so y'all, this is the most popular Range Rover Classic LWB on YouTube, bar none. It helped build my channel. I've got hundreds of thousands of views. It built his channel because he's got tens of thousands of views on the work he did. And you know, I'm just an idiot who talks into a camera and about cars. He actually spent the time to document how he restored this, down to, I now know how to properly fold wood veneer on those plywood panels to restore them. Y'all got to check out his channel. It is amazing. One of the best features about this vehicle is it's got a two-piece hatch. So, you know, you can do this, and then you can reach down here and open up and drop the tailgate, and then you can tailgate, which is funny because this is a British car and Americans are the ones who tailgate, right? At least we usually do. But this tailgate was factory fresh when I had this vehicle, and of course it still is. It's the only one I've ever seen that looks this good. I'm not sure if it was replaced before I had it, but again, this sat in a field for 10 years, so it could have rotted away. One of the things he had trouble with was trying to color match. This parcel shelf was in here, as was the spare tire cover and everything, and the carpeting and all that. He did try to make it look better because obviously these things fade, but he couldn't get the dye to adhere very well. But it still looks fantastic. I mean, nobody else has this cover. They just never saved. But oh man, that's so. When I had it, there was a tweak in the bumper here, and this scraped every time you'd put the tailgate down, and now of course it's just, look at it, it's beautiful. And then this closes with such a nice, oh yeah, I remember he thanked me for putting on new struts. Got my Watch JR Go going on there and put those new struts on. Oh, that just sounds so nice when it closes. This is such a beautiful vehicle. This is what I envisioned for this car. This is what I wanted it to be, but I just didn't have the opportunity to do this. He's got a garage with a lift and has more. Oh, wow, Can y'all tell that I am overwhelmed at how glorious this thing is? When I had this for a year, it was not a happy place to be in, and now it is. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but the wood was all the veneer had flaked off and would blow on you, and the fan made a horrible squeaking sound, and yeah, I mean, same mirror, same easy pass mounting. He redid the headliner, which was bouncing in the back. Didn't really affect me because of the sunroof. Sunroof always worked, which was cool. But this window never worked. So you know what? I'm putting that window down when I drive this, because that's the one thing I always wanted to do and I never got to. And in these, it was controlled by some stupid memory system that had the same, you can see it has the same kind of seat controls as on a Mercedes from the 80s, like a W124 or an S-Class. And there's a memory module in there that also controlled the power one-touch windows in the front. That one worked. That one worked sometimes. This one never worked. And it was so annoying because AC didn't work. That's fine, it's old. But this window wouldn't go down. And you drove this thing in the summer on a 90-some degree day. It was brutal because you never got any air. And the fan made such a horrible noise and didn't blow cold air that it was just not worth using. So driving this in the summer sucked. And the winter, it didn't really put out a lot of heat. So I didn't use this very much. Subsequently, it sat. Battery would go flat. But now, he's put a couple hundred miles on this since he's done with it and is just loving it. I can't wait to fire this thing up and hear it. So let's do that. Let's do that right now. Well, as always, safety third here at Doug's Cars. Safe belt on. Fire it up. Oh, it's so quiet. I had a bad exhaust leak. Oh. Hold on. There we go. Oh, it's one touch. Huh, one touch. That's fantastic. Oh, hold on. I need to do that again. Okay, it doesn't go up. The window works. I have my arms outside the driver's window in my Rover. Well, it's Paul's Rover now, but my old Rover. It's so quiet. This actually feels similar to the way it drove, because again, I had the suspension redone. Oh, the brakes are much better. He bought a donor vehicle that I guess had been rolled over, that came out of California. Stolen and rolled or something horrible was done to it. But he got some parts out of that, like the drivetrain especially, because it had 208,000 miles on it or something. I put about 1,500, 2,000 miles on it myself. I can roll this up a bit so we don't get blown out here on the microphone. But he rolled the clock back, as he said, about 80,000 miles. But I gotta shout out his YouTube channel. Absolutely subscribe. It is worth it. Some assembly required. Search for Range Rover Classic Restoration. You'll find it. I'm sure between the two of us, we've got many hundreds of thousands of views. That's why this is the most popular. Range Rover Classic, LWB, on YouTube. It has to be. Look at this thing. This was sat in a field and for like 10 years, just rotting. Although not rotting in the rusting sense, but oh, it sounds so much better. This is what it was supposed to be like. It was a high-dollar luxury car. Now, I always thought the brakes felt great in mine, but like they're like, you don't even, the pedal doesn't even travel at all. I see the washer fluid light is still on, which is funny because it was on when I had it, and the washer bottle's full. I mean, you saw that under the hood a moment ago, and I saw that under the hood a moment ago too. Paul was so kind to loan me this for the afternoon to make this video, because it brings my Rover Rescue saga, and the Rover Rescue saga that started with that field, and the one that Addicted Motors or Troy has, and that Mike from Sports Car Workshop still has, the Montpelier red one, and the Alpine Silver that Troy has. Those are still around. Troy still drives his regularly. The drivetrain from this one, my drivetrain, is actually going in Mike's Montpelier Red LWB. So that will be back on the road soon, because I don't think he got more than 50 or 100 miles out of it before it started having head gasket issues, because Rover V8. This one never had that. It just was super loud. We're taking it out on the main road here. I'm on a college campus, actually, where I went to college, which is where we met, because it was between our homes. And so it was a good place to film there. Get some gas, come up the hill. 4.2 liter V8. It always drove well. It just was noisy. Yeah. And it always shifted well, too, even with 208,000 miles on it. We're going 45 now. Yeah, this is about what I remember. I was able to move the seat back, which was fantastic, because when that memory thing died, it's a little button battery in there that would save the memory, and it was just sitting in the sun for decades after the battery died. The battery would just slowly ooze out and melt the circuitry. So there are companies that rebuild those, but you know, when you buy a $1,000 Land Rover, you don't want to spend half that to have that fixed. So that was on my list, obviously, of things to do. He obviously did it. I imagine he might have been able to use the one out of the other. I forget. I've obviously watched his videos. I had to watch them, because how would you not want to watch your vehicle get restored? And this was not done by a restoration shop. Now, it was painted in a shop, but he did all of the filling and sanding himself. Like I said, a labor of love he put into this. And it's just, I am just so happy that this poor vehicle that sat abandoned and unwanted and neglected in a field behind a storage unit, along with two buddies that are still on the road, but basically to this day, which is fantastic. We need to get those three together. Mike, Troy, we need to make this happen. Let's talk to Paul. Get all three of them parked next to each other again, because how cool would that be? Oh man, he took it to where I wanted it to be. And you know, I don't have a garage with a lift. I didn't have the time to do this, or the patience. You watch his videos, he is so patient. I would have been so mad. Now maybe he was, and you know, he took several takes, but it's almost like that ASMR thing, watching him like restore my vehicle. Well, his vehicle, I'm sorry. This is his. This is not mine anymore, and he certainly put enough work into this that he, yeah. I'm sorry, Paul, this is yours. But I'm glad that it was in my care for a while, and I rescued it from being like going to the junkyard. Again, this had already, I had all the paperwork on this, and it had already gone to the junkyard. It had been donated to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society by the original owner, who was an accountant and drove it for many, many years as a commuter car. I mean, that's why it had 200,000 highway miles on it. But since then, I took this off-road, and Paul, you know, he may never use this off-road because now it's gorgeous. But I have. It's had that in its history. It's done that on this suspension, on these tires. It did the Mid-Atlantic Rally and went rock crawling and lost the power steering lines and was in 4-low all day, which is probably the only time this has been in 4-low ever. But it was in 4-low for like 6 hours. It was great. Oh. So I don't have a whole lot of time with this because, you know, it's his baby now. And as with all of my reviews, they're not my car. So I don't want to drive this around forever and use up all of his gas and possibly damage his beautiful Beluga Black. But I am so glad that I've had this hour or so with this vehicle, because long story short, I now have that LR3, or Discovery 3 for those of you outside of North America, and that is what I wanted this to be. That has become a daily driver, which is terrible right now due to gas prices, but you know, functioning air conditioning. I took it to Florida twice. I took it to Chattanooga for a car show recently, just 2 weeks ago actually, and you know, it has a more modern stereo and all that. And it's comfortable. It has air suspension that still works. And this had air suspension initially, but it has the old man Emu springs on it that Mike at Sports Car Workshops put on for me. But if it had been this quality, I wouldn't have needed to get that LR3. I wouldn't have even thought about it. And that was a great decision for many reasons. I love that LR3. I mean, it's so imprinted on me now that it's just a friendly vehicle to me because I've used it for so many awesome experiences. I mean, it took my parents and I to Florida for like 3 weeks with all of our gear. That's hard to do, especially that's hard to do in a 15-year-old vehicle with over 200,000 miles on it. But I think I could have done that in this had it been restored to this quality. But you know, it wouldn't have been $1,000 had it been restored to this quality, because this is now worth, you know, easily 5 figures, well into the 5 figures, because these are certainly coming up in value. And well done, Paul. Like I said, you've got to check out Some Assembly Required on YouTube. You know, he has had many thousands of views on the work he's done, as rightfully so. And the Venn diagram of people who follow Doug's cars for Rover Rescue stuff and what he does probably overlap a lot, just like my viewership does with Addicted Motors. But I mean, this is just incredible. He goes into detail on everything he did, and all the parts he transferred over from the donor Rover, and what he kept from this. Obviously, the interior was in really good shape, and you know, these seats were not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Now they're beautiful. I mean, and the leather's soft and supple again, but they were not really cracked or torn or anything. They were just, you know, hard, and I'd put, you know, leather food on them and all that to try and soften them up a bit, but it just, you know, they sat in the sun outdoors with that window cracked open for 10 years, and there's just no coming back from that, really. So I mean, I applaud him doing this, because it just makes this vehicle such a pleasant place to be. Window back down again because I can. Oh, I love having that window down. This would have made this vehicle so much more enjoyable for me, having that window work. Oh man. I should have just broken down and gotten that thing replaced so I could have put the window down. Oh. Oh man. This is a black beauty now. Not a black hoopty like it was. Oh, I love this truck. I've had so much fun with it over the years, and you know, being part of the team that resuscitated and brought this back to life on a very basic level, obviously, was just so great. You know, the fact that Troy is still able to drive his regularly is just amazing. I drove it up to his house in the mountains, and his has had, you know, not a whole lot of work done to it either. It's beyond the opportunity for restoration, I think, unless these things are worth $500,000. But this one wasn't. Like, this one had basically no rust on it. There was some rust at the bottom of the B pillar on the outside. Of course, the body panels are aluminum, but the frame was also rust-free. I think Mike's Montpelier, we figured out, must have towed a boat, because the rear of the frame is Swiss cheese, so the rest of it isn't. But you know, and this one, you know, it was the best candidate for a restoration, because it just didn't have the issues with rust, and that's the most expensive thing to take care of. You know, he replaced the mechanicals with a donor vehicle that had, I guess, you know, way less miles. Okay, it has 130,000 miles listed on this. This is the replacement gauge cluster, not mine, that had 200. I think it was 208,000. I'll have to go back and look, but I will obviously link to the Rover Rescue playlist, because I don't know, maybe I made 30 videos on this thing easily, and the off-roading videos are on there and everything, and it's just it's just been an absolutely amazing experience, and this just brings it full circle for me. I never thought that I would get to do this, and then I bumped into Paul at Cars and Coffee, and he drove it specifically to Cars and Coffee to see if we'd be there, and we were. And I said, Paul, is there any way you'd let me drive this and make a video of it? And he said, of course. I was like, oh, thank you. This makes it all worthwhile. All the love-hate relationship I had with this, when it wouldn't start because I had left it sitting too long, which obviously was my fault, or just the window not working, the blower making noises, all the issues with all of the work I put into the exhaust system to try to make it not have an exhaust leak, and it still sounded awful like a 71 Chevelle with glass backs. I mean, this is just so cool. I'm so glad he spent that year doing this and making it what it was and what it needed to be. And I'm so glad I got to experience it. And I'm obviously gushing, but that's what I do. And he declined to be on the video, but you'll see him in his videos, because again, you're going to subscribe, because he's actually halfway to getting monetized. So y'all need to go hit subscribe on his channel and get him to 1,000 subscribers, so he can start making some money off of these videos that he put up, because he deserves that, and he deserves that recognition, because labor of love doesn't even begin to describe what he and his wife put into this, because she helped him significantly as well and was in the videos helping out. So I just want to thank them both so much. Once again, some assembly required. Hit subscribe for them. And hey, while you're at it, if this is your first time visiting Doug's Cars, please hit subscribe for me too, because I've got a lot of new stuff coming this way soon, and some big news coming. But this is the big news. Like, this made my weekend. This made my month. I mean, this is just so nice. I mean, I'd seen it on video, and he was here in town, but you know, it was just not something that I didn't know if I'd ever actually end up seeing it again, because I didn't really know him. I didn't broker the deal. A mutual friend who's well into Land Rovers did it for us. But this just... please hit subscribe. Thanks y'all so much for watching Doug's Cars. Thanks for watching Rover Rescue. And thanks once again for helping make this the most popular Range Rover Classic LWB on YouTube. Have a great day, y'all.